Hello. So now we will discuss React Redux. So what is Redux and how we will integrate Redux in the React? Okay. And what are the features of Redux and why what is the requirement of this and what is the flow of Redux? We will discuss in this all in a one video. Okay. So this is the website of React Redux. I'm just going here. Here is the definition in the one line. Okay, like there is a predictable state container for React application. So predictable state container means it is a container of states. It's have the states of our application. Okay, so it save the Redux save the state of our application in a container, or this container is called store. Okay, this is for only for JavaScript application. So this means this is only not only for React. This can be used with the Angular as well and Vue.js as well and other JavaScript libraries and framework as well. Okay, so this is not fixed. Redux is not fixed. We can use only with React. Okay, we can use other library and framework as well, and this is predictable. Okay, this is also the feature of Redux. So we can go from here. Predictable. Okay, designed to work with React's component model. You define how to extract the values your component needs from Redux, and your component update automatically as needed. Means predictable means we know what we are going to store in the store. Okay, we want to send something, we want to change and modify something which we are going to store in the store. So we know everything, what we are fetching, what we are updating in our state. So in we will change the state in the predictable manner, so we know everything about the state. Okay, and there is a encapsulation means provide APIs that enable your component to interact with Redux store, so you don't have to write the that logic yourself. You don't have to write the logic yourself. Means we just set some configurations and Redux just do the work for us. Like uh, we are just going to store our state in the stores, and we are just connecting this store to our application. Okay, so we just do some settings and the Redux do this internally, and this internal works is called encapsulated. So there is a lot of work Redux do as the form of encapsulation. Okay, there is another is optimization. Optimization means automatically implemented complex performance optimization. Okay, this is already already optimized. Means when we are using Redux with React, so it does not decrease the performance of our application. It is highly optimized already. Okay, so that your own component only re-render when the data it need has actually changed. Okay, so we don't worry about the performance of our application. We just need to fetch the data and re-render our component. Okay, so this is all about Redux. What was the so what is the requirement of Redux? There is an image. Okay, without the this image is without Redux means data flow without Redux. Like we have a C1 component here. These are the C2 and C3 child component. Okay, and C4 and C5 is the C2 component. Like okay, if C1 is fetching some data from C2, then this is the arrow. Okay, fetching the data from C1 C1 from C3 not C2. Okay, then it's use callback functions. Okay, when and like data is exists from the C6. Okay, without Redux, by the help of callback function, the C3 fetch the data from C6 and C1 then fetch the data from C3 by the help of callback functions. Okay, and if we have like a hierarchy from A to like I'm just opening from here, like our component is A like this, and alphabetically there are there are 26 component like this. Okay, like this. Okay, if data is available in the Z and this is the requirement in the app, so y will fetch the data from Z and x then fetch the data from y by the help of callback function. In this hierarchy, we will pass this callback function into the 25 component to reach to the app component. Okay, so in this case, we can have some syntactical error, we can miss our callback function. So it is very hard to handle this. Okay, but Redux, by the help of Redux, we create a store outside our application. We store like we have a data in state, we have a data means state in our Z component, then directly we will save in the store and we can fetch that state in the app application. So there is no need to pass this state from Y to A. Okay, Y to A component. There is no requirement of that state in that by the help of callback function. Okay, so the vice versa of this, if we can pass our state from app to Z component. If some data means state in we have in the app component and we want to get in the Z component, so we will pass a prop to A to B, B to C, C to D, and Z, X, Y, Z, so on. So we will pass into the 25 component, but there is no requirement of that props. This is called unnecessary props we will pass, and there is no requirement. So this is called props drilling. So how this prop we can overcome this situation of props dealing? We have two concepts already. Like one is the context API, one is the context API, and another is the use context use context hook. Okay, use context hooks. This is so when these are available, so why the requirement of the hook, why the requirement of Redux? Because we can pass the data from parent to child by these two, but we cannot pass the data from child to parent by these two. Okay, we cannot get. So in this case, these will be the fail if there is a requirement to get the data from get the data from child to parent, then we cannot use this. So Redux come to the picture in this case. Okay, like I'm just opening my, in this case, like in the Redux, like we have a data in the, like we assume in the C, C4 component, then we can directly save in the store and we can fetch into the any component, like there is a requirement in C2, C7, C6, we can directly fetch from data from the store. Okay, but in this case we need to pass into the some other component. Okay, so this is the requirement why this is required in the, why Redux is required in the React. Okay, let's go to the flow, data flow of the Redux. First of all, we have a component. We just dispatch an action. We have some action means we have like get products and we want to update products. This type of we have constants in that, and we just dispatch this action. These are the like functions, and which is just instruct to reducer to update the state. Like from the component, user create action and event user interact. Okay, so component interact with actions, it just dispatch the actions, and dispatch actions just reducer. There is a root reducer in the store. A store is created with the help of the root reducer. Okay, root reducer, and root reducer just pass this action to every reducer. If there is a change in the state, then the reducer just change the state and then store in the store, and in any component we can fetch the data. Store just hold application state. Okay, it just have our application state. It's a predictable state container store. Okay, and then we can fetch in our component. So this is the flow, very simple flow. This is the one direction flow. Okay, we cannot directly from the component, we cannot store in the store. We need to just dispatch an action. Then action just root reducer just provide this action to all the reducer, and in the reducer it just decide is there any change in the state. If there is any change in the state, then it will save in the store. So this is the one-way flow. Okay, I have created one document for this. Like, what is Redux? Redux is a predictable state container for the JavaScript application. I have already discussed this. And we will create one application for this, like this. Okay, we have a state 0, and when we will create this minus button, this value will decrease, and when we create plus 1, plus, when we click on the plus, then this 0 state will increase. Like, we have one button for decrement, and state we have count, and we have one button of plus. Okay, so how we will uh, start this? First, we will create our project, like by the use of npx create react app and project name. So I'm just going into my cmd command prompt. I'm just writing here npx create react app redux demo. Okay, redux hyphen demo. I'm just creating this. I have entered. So it will take some time. Meanwhile, I'm just stopping this video, and I will resume this. So you can just if you not resolve not install the node.js, you just go into the Google and download the node.js. It's a simple software. Install this, and and environment variable, you just set the path of the node.js in the environment variable. Okay, I have already. I'm just going to see you in environment variable. I'm just going into the environment variable, like here, and here is a path. I will show you and edit, like here. I have stored already the path in the environment variable. So Node.js will work globally. If not installed, install Node.js from the Google, and I will also tell you, like, go into the Google, download Node.js for Windows 7 or anything. You just go to the site of Windows Node.js.org, and here is the Windows installer. You just click, it will just download a simple file, and just click on that as we install a normal software in our system, and just go into the C drive and get the path, and just set the path in the environment variable, and your system will be ready. Okay. So it is taking some time. Meanwhile, I'm just going to pause my video. Okay, now our React project is created. I'm just going into the folder, like cd redux hyphen app, enter redux demo. It was the redux demo. Okay, now entered, and now I will open my VS Code. If you have not installed, just install this. It is a simple software. You just go to the Google and type VS Code, download the VS Code editor, and now Redux demo. All files are here. So I'm just going to click this, and I'm just going to in the terminal, new terminal, and now I will start my project. Okay, npm start. By this command, we can start our project. So we have followed this. We have created our React app by the npx created React app, project name, Redux demo, Redux hyphen demo, then cd, enter in the projects, and then I have doing the npm start. Now my project is starting. Okay. After that, I will install npm install redux and npm install react redux. Okay, so Redux is a Redux library, and React Redux we use to integrate Redux with React. Okay, these are the two libraries we will install here. I'm just going to install. So I'm just opening one more terminal here by clicking on plus. So npm install Redux. So this will install this. So I'm going here. So this is now our project is running. Okay. Now, meanwhile, I'm just going into my app.js and I'm just deleting everything. Okay, I have deleted everything from here. Now I will create one folder of components here. Components. Okay, in this component, I will create a file like function a dot js. So this is the functional component I have created by the React code snippet RFS. I will create a functional component. So I have created a functional component here. Okay, functional component. Okay, then I will include this functional component in my app component. Okay, enter. So not included, no problem. I will import manually. Import function name from components slash function. Okay, so I have created a functional component function A, and I have imported in the app.js, and now I have called here. Okay, so I'm just going to here. So functional component is showing here. Okay, no problem with this. So now our Redux library is installed. So I will install npm install React Redux React Redux library, which is used to connect the Redux with our React application. Okay, so now what we will do? Okay, so we will create two button here. One is decrement, another is increment. Okay, so I'm just going to create here in my functional component, and I'm adding one br tag. After that, I'm creating here button. So I have created one button here, and I'm just writing in the next line. After that, I'm creating one more button. Okay, plus. Okay, so left dollar $NBSP I'm adding for space NBSP. So let's check on the browser. This is okay. So this is not working. Okay. So now I will create on click event. I will create a function as well, like decrement. Okay. And I will create one more function increment on plus. increment. Okay, so now I will define here function decrement. Okay, we will define like this, but we will not define this function from here. We will create these functions. We will create this function in the action, and we will dispatch these functions from here. Okay, so generally we create the function in the component, but in this case, in the Redux, we will create this function in the actions. Okay, so what is actions here? Actions are JavaScript objects that have types, field, and the payload, and its use for what to do. Like these have the functions like increment functions. Okay, and these returns the like type increment and payload some data returns. Okay, simple function we will create in the actions. And why we will what they function do, they function just do what what to do means what we want to do. Like here with the type of increment we will increment our state with the help of this. Okay, and with the help of this decrement type we will decrease our state. So this generally tells us what we want to do with our state. Okay, so let's create a file. I'm just going here and I'm just going to create, no, in src I'm just going to create one folder actions. There can be multiple actions, so I have created a folder and I will create a file here index.js. I have created here. Now I will create, so I have created two functions here, increment and decrement. So I will create these functions here, const increment, and I'm creating the arrow functions like this. Okay, so we will use these functions in our component. So I'm exporting this because we will import it here. So export const decrement like this, and we will return some value in the form of object like type like increment. Okay, and we will change here decrement. Okay, now we will import this action in our file, import increment. So like there is two imports here, so I will remove one and one is decrement like this. So now we can use, we have already used. So now you got it, we are not creating this function here, we just creating this function into the actions, and these now this function we will call them actions. Okay, so now we will just create a one constant file for this, because we will use these constant in our reducer file as well. Like, okay, like this, export constant increment is equal to increment. So why use constant in React Redux? It allow you to easily find all the uses of that constant across the project. It also prevent you from the introducing silly bugs caused by the typos. Means we if we have we type a strings of increment and decrement, so there may be a type error in that, and uh, there may be a like a issue in the searching. Okay, so to overcome this problem we just create the constant. Okay, and in which case you will get a reference error as well. Okay, if there is some mistake in the spelling mistake and anything, then we will get a reference error. Okay, so I'm just going here and I will create one more folder there may be a like multiple folder constant files. So I'm just creating also a constants folder, and in that constant I will create index.js file, and I will create simple constant in the capital increment, and like this I will assign like this, and we will also import in the actions. So we will export this. Okay, so next constant is export constant decrement, and like this. Okay, so now in our action I will import this file, import increment and decrement, like this. Now I will replace these strings by these constants. Okay, so we have created action and constants. Okay, now we will create reducers. Okay, so let's move reducers. So what are reducers? Reducers are the function that takes current state and an action as a argument. Okay, current state means reducers are also a functions, like these are the arrow function. This takes two argument, like first is the state and second is the actions, and return in new states. Means a, on the basis of these actions like increment and decrement, we just change, it's just change or modify the state. Like if the action is increment, there is a switch case is used, and there is a in from the actions, we are not including the action here. Okay, the actions, just root reducer will provide the action to all the reducers I have discussed before. Okay, so on the basis of this increment action type, okay, this action type is passed in the switch. On the basis of this is returning state plus 1, and this is state minus 1. Okay, on the basis of decrement. So we will create a reducer. So we are going here and we will create a folder reducers, because reducer can be multiple. So I'm just going to create reducers, and in that I will create a reducer like change count. Count is our state, we will showing it count.js. Okay, change count. Now I am just going to create change change count. I'm just going to create one reducer, one arrow function I have created, and it's have two argument, like one is state and another is action. Okay, now I will create initial state, initial initial state with 0. I have assigned 0 in this, and I will assign this initial to state. Okay, now we will have here switch case in which we will pass our action. Okay, and in this section we will pass here type. Okay, and this type, action type, will match our case, and we will import here our constants. Okay, increment and decrement. Okay, so We will use this constant at the multiple places, so that's why we have created these increment and decrement types in the increment decrement constants. Now I will have this here, and this will return state plus 1. Okay, now second case decrement, and this will return state minus 1. And then there is a default case, and this will return state, the same state. And there will be a break in cases. Okay, break. So this is our producer. Okay, now we will export default change count, because we will create root reducer. When we will import this reducer, there may be a multiple reducer in that. So in our application we have one root reducer, and in which we will import all the reducers. Okay, like, so our reducer is created here. So now next is root reducer. I'm just going here. This is the root reducer. So what is root reducer? The Redux uses a single root reducer function that accepts all the reducers to combine in a single reducer. So all the reducers, as I have created one change count, so there may be another for the like change user data and change syllabus. This type of many reducer we can have help, and with these all, with the help of this reducer, we will create a one single reducer. This will called as root reducer. Okay, and there will be a combine helper function. Okay, combine helper function turns an object which value are different reducing function into a single reducing function you can pass to the store. Okay, so with the help of this root reducer we will create store. Okay, so means this reducer we are not including action file here, but we are getting the actions. So this root reducer just generally, when we dispatch the actions, just pass this action to all the reducers. Okay, so there is one we are doing. This is the up and down, and we have up and down. We have change this name here, change count. Okay, change count we have changed here, and here is up and down. Okay, no issue. And this is the like finally fetching the chain count. Okay, we will import this reducer into the root reducer, and from the Redux we will find out the helper combined reducer, and in this compound combined reducer we will just pass as a parameter, like as an object we will pass as an object change count reducer. And if we have more reducers, then we will pass here like this x, y, z, and so on. Okay, and this will create our root reducer. Okay, so I'm just going to create one file in the src, like root reducer.js. I have created root reducer, and I will import here change count. Okay, and I will import here from Redux. I will import here combine reducers from Redux, and in that combine reducer I will pass here, what I will pass here, my reducer change count, and I will assign in a root reducer. Okay, and export default root reducer. So this is created root reducer. We are importing our change count reducer here, and in that helper function like combine reducer, we are just passing this reducer, and this is creating simply root reducer. Okay, so we are just doing some setting. Okay, and Redux is automatically just creating a root reducer to us. So this is called encapsulation. This is doing internally so much works to creating with the help of this function. So there is lot of work in the Redux library, okay, to create reducer to root reducer. So this called the encapsulation features of of Redux. Okay. So now we will create a store with the help of root reducer. So let's see. Store is a immutable object tree in Redux. Immutable means we cannot change the data in the Redux in the store. Okay, we will change the data in the our reducer. Okay, with the help of like whatever the action we are getting on that basis, we will change the state in the reducer, and then we will save and fetch the state from the store. But directly we cannot change data in the store. Okay, it will not allow to change the data, mutate the data in the store. A store is a state container which holds the application state. So store is a state container which holds the application state. Okay, and Redux can have only one single store in an application. Okay, per application we can have only one single store. Okay, like here Redux, by the help of Redux we are creating a store, and we are importing this root reducer here, and we are just passing in this function create store. We are passing root reducer in this create store, and our store is created. Very simple. So I'm just going to create one more file in src store.js, and in that I'm just going to import root reducer root reducer not showing. So I'm just going here. We have a root reducer like here. Okay, so import it. Now I will import here create store like. Okay, with the help of this function we will pass this root reducer here, and this will give us a store. Okay, now we will export here because we will provide this store to the our application. So store is created. Now we will provide this store to our application, React application, with the help of provider. So there is a one note here. Redux store bring together state, action, and reducer that make up your application. Okay, so it's just bring together state, our application state, action, and reducer. Okay, to make our application. So what is the use of provider? Provider is used to just make the available of this store to our React application. So this is our root component, app component. So provider, when in this provider component we are just passing this store, then this will be available automatically available in this app component. So they here you can also see this. This is also encapsulation. We are just doing some setting. We are just in the React Redux. Here is using a library React Redux, which is used to connect Redux with React. Okay, so we are connecting our store with our React application. So this is used here. Okay, we are importing our store. We are just importing the provider from the React Redux, and with the help of this, we are providing this store to our app component, means our application. So let's go to index.js and we will do this in our index.js. Here I will go here, I will import store from. So we have a store here. I have imported. Now I will import provider from React-Redux library. Okay. Now in the strict mode, I will create a parent of app provider like this provider, and simple I will just pass a props like props store, and I will assign a value of store here. Okay. So this is now this will available in our application. So store is now simply available in our application. Okay. So now let's next I have created here a functional component. As you can see here in the component at the beginning, I have created a functional component here. Okay. So there are two hooks. React Redux React Redux, this is the library provide us a two hooks like useDispatch and useSelectore. So useDispatch is generally used to dispatch our action. We will create in hooks, and in this dispatch we will just generally we will pass our action, and this simple way just will dispatch our actions. So let's go, and I'm just going into the functional component and I'm just importing use dispatch from React Redux. Okay, use dispatch, and I will assign this in a simple dispatch. Okay, simple dispatch, and I will pass this function in this. Okay, like this. Now our function will be dispatched from here. Means action will be now actions are dispatchable from here. So now this when we dispatch this, then our state will be like I'm just going into the index, and in this store not here, I'm just going into the reducer. This is the chain, and I'm just going here, and I'm just going to console.log, and I'm just printing here console action. Okay, I'm just going here, and I'm just going to open inspect element, going to the console. Okay, and then we are having types at Redux. Initially we are having, when I will create here, we are getting type increment. When I will create here, we are getting decrement. So now our actions are dispatchable. Okay, now we will get, and these are the saving also the data in the inside the store. And we have another use selector hook. Okay, use selector hook, like we have written something here like use dispatch hook returns a reference to dispatch the function from Redux store. You may use it to dispatch a action. So this use dispatch hook is used to dispatch an action. Okay, simply there is a use selector. Use selector hooks take a function which receive as its first argument state, means it's have a first argument as state, and then it allow you to return from that which part of the state that you want. So we have a complete state here. Okay, we have a complete state of our Redux, and we can get the data. Okay, so now we will import this. I will import here, where is my function? This is my functional component. I will just import here use selector, in this use selector as a first argument I will get state. Okay, and from state I will fetch here, like in my change component we are just exporting this, so we will get here this change state, change count. Okay, now I will store here like this. Okay, now this count I will replace here like this. Okay, so everything is fixed now. So let's go, and I'm just going to my application. So I'm just going to click here. Now my value is incrementing. When I'm clicking here, my value is decrementing. Okay, and this is also action is type on the basis of action. We are working here in the reducer. So this is done. So this is all about functional component, how we can save the state in our store and how we can get in the our functional component if this is the class component. So in the class component these hooks will not work. In the class component these are for the functional component. So how we can dispatch the action in that case, and how we can get the state from the producer. Okay, so let's, I'm just going to create one more class component here, class A. I'm just creating class A. I have created here, and with the help of code, create code snippet, I am creating a class component. Okay, I have created, and these will be the same. I'm just going to copy and paste. So I have created here. Okay, and one more thing, I will import this here. So these are the same. So now this, so how we will dispatch the action from here, like this dispatch we are using from here. So we will not, because we are not using now use dispatch hook. So I'm just removing this. Okay, so first of all we are using this count. Okay, so now we will get this count from the constructor as a props. In the functional component, props, this will be the part of props, like this. Okay, so I'm just going here, I'm just doing here for this like this will be the part of props as well, and this will be the part of props. And for constant we will have here, like here we are using the change count, we will get that, and then we will convert this in the count, and we are getting an issue here. Const modify cannot be used in TypeScript files. Okay, so we are just going inside this constructor here like this, and we can use this. We can create here we are using this. Okay, there is some issue. No issue now. Okay, so this is so all done. We will get all these functions and state in our props. Okay, so now go to the components. So now for the dispatching we have a function here, we have one more function here like map dispatch to props. Okay, and this have the first argument as a dispatch. Okay, with the help of this dispatch we will dispatch our increment and decrement actions from here. Okay, so let's I'm just going to creating one functions here, like these are the, I will write this outside the class because these are the components, like map dispatch to props. Okay, so and return increment, we will use here state, not state dispatch, because we will dispatch the action from here. So we will use here, in that we will pass here increment. Okay, like this. Okay, now space, now we will use convert this in the decrement. Decrement, this is okay. So we have created a map dispatch to props one function here, and in this we will get dispatch as a parameter, and we will dispatch the action from here. And this action we have imported the our action file here. Okay, now let's go to the document. The map dispatch to prop argument is responsible for enabling a component to dispatch an action. So it will enable our component to dispatch an action. Now we have another. So this is map dispatch to props is similar to use dispatch scope. Okay, and map state to props is similar to use selector. Okay, map state to props. So this is also will used to get the data from the store, means get the state from the store. Okay, so map state to props is used to selecting the part of data from the store that connected component needs. It is frequently referred to the just the map states for sort. Okay, in map state in the sort we say this map state to props map state. Okay, it receives the retrieve entire store state and should return a object. So it will just return us a entire state of our store. Okay, and we will filter on the basis of our reducer here. Okay, so I'm just going here and I'm just going to create one more function here, map state to props. Okay, in that we will get a state here, and we will return now, assign in the count, and that will be state dot change count. Okay, so this is, now we have created two function, map dispatch to props and map state to props, one for dispatching an action and another is for fetching the state. Okay, so now how we can connect these functions, these component in with our class components. Okay, so we have a connect function, these are the connect. Okay, connect, this is the part of React Redux library, means React is used, this library used to connect the Redux with the React. And this connect function have first argument map state to props and second argument map dispatch to props. Okay, and then this is the name of the component. Here is the plus minus and I have changed this to class A. Okay, now I'm just going to import this, import connect from React Redux. Okay, now I will use this here, and I will pass, this will be the first parameter, like, and this will be the second parameter, and we will use like this. This is here, class A is now, we are using this as a higher order component. Okay, so all set now. So here, so there is no need to define in the argument, we can directly use this here. So I am just going to first console.log props. Okay, and I will replace this functional component with class component in my app.js. I'm going here and I'm just importing, import class A, and I will change this functional component to class A. Okay, and in that class component I will change this functional to class component. Okay, props is not defined. Line number 14 we are getting. So here we will use this dot props. Okay, so props, that's why props is not defined, because the reference of this class we will use, then props will available. Now all fine. So let's go to our component. This is the class component and our state is showing 0. So there is count 0. So this is coming as not. So we have assigned here in our state, map state to props, change count to the count. So we will get in this props, we will get this props here count. Okay, like this. Okay, and these are the functions which to dispatching. Okay, we are getting as a props here. Okay, let's go to the functionality, we are getting 0. Now I am going to click here. So this is incrementing and this is decrementing. Okay, like if I want to decrease or increase some value, like I want to pass like 2, I want to increment this value by 2 and I want to decrement this value by 3 in this case. So how this work, I will pass here from like 3 and I will pass here like 2. Okay, in that case in our dispatch we will dispatch some number. Okay, number like this. Okay, number, we will pass this number here in our actions and we will go in our actions here and we will get some number here, number. And if we want to send some data to our like uh, in our reducer, then we will use here payload. Okay, payload, and payload, this is not mandatory we will have here payload, we can have this data. Okay, but we will have this payload because the Redux is recommend us to have payload. So like this, and what we will happen in the our reducer, now we are getting actions, so we will get here payload as well. So we will, in place of this, we will have payload. Okay, action plus payload, and in place of 1, this is the hard coded, so we will use payload minus 1 like this. Okay, I'm just going to remove this console from, now I will check here. Now here I am just going to click, so this is incrementing by 2, 22, 24, 26. Now I will click here, this is decrementing by 3. Okay, 19, 16, 13, 10, decrement by 3. So now same we will do in our functional component. So I am just going here and I will just uncomment this. I will comment this, and I will change this component to class component to file our functional component. And in that component, functional component, here I will also pass here 3. In the decrement I will pass here 2. Okay, that's it. Now let's check in the functional component. So this is the incrementing, and this is decrementing like this. Okay, incrementing by 2 and decrementing by 3. So like this. So this is the complete Redux flow, and next we will discuss Redux things. How can we send the Ajax call, and we will also discuss the Redux persist, like when we are refreshing our page, our state is showing us 0. Okay, like, and we want, by the help of Redux persist library, if we refresh this, then this state should not change, and this should be same. So we will just in our next lecture we will discuss the Redux persist, and we will, for the asynchronous like HTTP request, we will get some data from HTTP request and we will load here. Okay, so how we can send the asynchronous call in the Redux with the help of Redux thing we will see. So thank you for watching. This is the all flow. Just practice this and please subscribe my channel.